In the state of Washington lies the Mount Rainier National Park, which attracts around 2 million visitors annually. Mount Rainier is a volcano, a slumbering giant that last erupted in the 1890s. It is one of the oldest national parks in the world, becoming federally protected in 1899, not too long after its last eruption. The majority of people have a pleasant time at the park, taking in the views and finding peace with nature. But for some, they get more than they bargained for. Marcella Ramisky, 4 years old, disappeared on the 2nd of July 1950. With her mother, the pair were spending some time together around the Carbon River area of Mount Rainier National Park. They had been hiking for a while before sitting down to have a picnic together. It's not clear how this occurred, and the articles don't go into very much detail about this. But at some point during this picnic, Marcella looks to have wandered away, and Kay, the mother, couldn't locate her thereafter. Kay had said that she wasn't sure what had happened. One moment everything was fine, and the next Marcella was gone. It's not made clear why Marcella wandered away or how. There's not a lot of context given. Kay did spend some time calling Marcella's name and looking for her, but when she couldn't find her, she was able to grab the attention of others, and the park rangers were notified. The search for Marcella was started immediately, and bloodhounds were called in right from the get-go. The dogs never found Marcella's scent, but thankfully she was found safe the following day, around 2 miles from the point of her disappearance. The Carbondale Southern Illinoisan stated this: "Forest rangers and soldiers, assisted by bloodhounds, searched the bear-infested Carbon River area of Mount Rainier National Park today for a 4-year-old girl lost in the rugged wilderness since yesterday afternoon. 50 men with flashlights searched along the swollen, swift-flowing Carbon River all night." And Park Superintendent John Preston said 115 soldiers from Fort Lewis had joined the search today. 2 bloodhounds from Centralia were unable to pick up the tot scent. The area is corrugated with deep ravines and thickly populated with wild animals, including bear and cougar. Preston said bears in the area were very wild and not the usual friendly variety found in the more civilized areas of the park. Marcella, who has been lost in Mount Rainier National Park since yesterday afternoon, was found today, the ranger's office here reported. A ranger said the girl, Marcella Ramisky, was in good condition with no visible injuries. She was taken to a doctor's office at Buckley for examination. 2 men, both of Tacoma, found her. What's interesting about this is that while the Carbondale reported that Marcella didn't have any injuries, the Bluefield Daily Telegraph reported that her legs bore long scratches from crawling through the underbrush. Specifically, Marcella was found sitting high on the slopes of Mount Rainier, but despite the scratches, she was found in remarkably good condition. There's also some further interesting information. "I slept on a tree," Marcella explained to her mother. Her mother said that the tot had apparently gone through her regular nightly routine, regardless of the disconcerting circumstances. Her dress was on backwards, and the laces of her shoes were crossed every which way, Mrs. Ramisky reported. The girl was found about 9 AM by 2 Tacoma brothers who volunteered in the search. Jack and Donald Noel spotted her through binoculars and reached her a short time later. It's interesting, and perhaps a bit odd at first glance, that her dress was on backwards and her laces of her shoes had been messed up. Overnight, it becomes quite cold on the mountain, even in summertime, with temperatures dropping to around freezing levels. So it's interesting that she would remove her clothes and shoes. I can't imagine that she slept without them given said temperatures. Occam's razor is usually the correct answer, so perhaps as Case suggested, she had just followed her nightly routine. It's still interesting, however, that she was found in, and I quote, remarkably good condition without any signs of hypothermia. This is something that can grip young people very quickly and harshly, and somehow Marcella had managed to avoid that despite the removal of clothing. In any case, in the end, I'm just glad that she was found safe and in good condition. That was also the end of the paper trail, so let's explore the next disappearance. 17-year-old Elizabeth Eirolt disappeared on the 13th of September 1948. On that day, she was on a skiing trip with 3 friends on Mount Rainier. As they were ascending the mountain, Elizabeth reportedly became tired and rested for a while at Whitman Glacier, while her friends continued on their ascent. This was around the 8,200 foot level, and she had agreed with the others to wait in place while they came back down to her. However, when her friends returned to Whitman Glacier, Elizabeth was no longer there. What her friends did find though were ski tracks leading down the mountain, and as they began to follow them, eventually they petered out and weren't discoverable anymore. I'm not sure exactly what that means in terms of the tracks coming to an end, but here is the direct quote. Elizabeth's companions reported ski tracks leading downward, but due to snow surface conditions were unable to follow them. After the tracks became unfollowable, whatever that then looks like, 2 of the friends remained at the tracks, while the 3rd left to get help, and the official search was on. 2 rescue parties of the US Park Rangers planned to continue a search for Elizabeth Eirolt, who was reported lost on the snow-covered slopes of Mount Rainier. Search operations were halted by darkness without trace of the missing woman, who became separated from 2 companions late Sunday. The group of friends said that they planned to spend Saturday night at Summerland. Early Sunday, they started to climb to the top of Little Tahoma Peak, 11,170 feet in height. Miss Eirolt became tired and remained to rest of Whitman Glacier while her companions continued their climb. At 6 PM Sunday, they returned to the 8,200 foot level where they had left Elizabeth and could not locate her. It's interesting in this instance that they found evidence of Elizabeth's direction of travel, but even the professionally trained searchers couldn't locate her initially. It took me a while to find an update on Elizabeth, and there weren't many reports after the initial disappearance, but thankfully she was found. Under the heading, "Daughter of Navy Captain is found unharmed," the Montana Standard reported this. Elizabeth was found Tuesday unharmed after 2 days and nights alone on rugged Mount Rainier. Meanwhile, a search was in progress for 2 of her companions who apparently left their campsite in search of her. Park officials said that they weren't worried about them, but wanted them to know that Elizabeth had been found. The authorities stated that she was found over 5 miles away from the point of her disappearance and that she was cold and hungry, but otherwise in good physical condition. Unfortunately, there were never any statements made by Elizabeth in regards to what happened. It was never made clear why she left in the first place. It's also curious that if she wanted to descend, for whatever reason, she didn't go back the way they came up. It's just odd in some sense that she would agree to remain in place and then for unknown reasons she travelled in a completely different direction to which the group had taken and that she was familiar with. Whatever the case may be, at least Elizabeth was found safely. Larry Connors was 2.5 years old when he disappeared from his family home. It's not mentioned in which general area he lived, only that much of the search area was covered by Mount Rainier. In any case, Larry's dad said that he believed that Larry had walked off into the wilderness with his neighbour's dog. This dog would later return alone while the search was ongoing. Thankfully, Larry was found alive a day after the search began. The Manitowoc Herald-Times reported this. Larry Connors, missing since Sunday afternoon, was found alive today by his father, one of about 400 men who had started a mile-long sweep through the underbrush. The lad was under a bush about 900 feet behind his home. His face was dirty, but otherwise he showed no effects of a night outdoors. A doctor was called to examine him. The child had apparently become tired and fell asleep. Shortly before 10 AM today, about 400 men formed a line about a mile long and began to sweep through the rocks and undergrowth in the back of Connor's home. The father, Wilbert Connor, said he had passed the same bush several times during the hunt, which began shortly after 4 PM yesterday. There was no further reporting on Larry other than this, but it's interesting nonetheless that he was found in an area that had been repeatedly searched. The comments about him showing no effects of a night outdoors, I can only assume means that there were no injuries, and other than his dirtied face, he was otherwise in great condition. I always find it curious when a person is found in an area already searched, because in this case, it has to mean that Larry was always nearby and was able to evade the searchers for the entire time, either not hearing or ignoring their calls. A lot of people seem to find this aspect quite suspicious, and I suppose in some sense always brings up the question, was he placed there? There have been instances in the past where the person responsible for a disappearance has joined the search effort. If the heat got too much, I'm sure this could be a potential outcome. I want to make it clear though that as far as I can tell, there's absolutely no evidence at all to suggest that something like that happened to Larry. Occam's razor, I suppose, points to the idea that Larry was somehow always very close to the searchers, but just out of reach. I do understand how some could take issue with that interpretation though. In the end, we'll never truly have the full picture, just the assumption that he followed the dog into the wilderness and got lost. With that, now seems like a good time to hand it over to you in the comments below. I hope you don't mind the shorter video today. I'm about to head to a national park in the UK where I'm staying for a week, so I had to cut this one short. There will still be a video next week. I've put together an hour-long compilation of some of the disappearances that I've covered in the past. So what did you make of these disappearances? Do share your thoughts with me. I'd just like to take the time to thank you for watching. If you found the video interesting, then please do leave a like, hit the bell and subscribe if you haven't already, it helps me a lot. If not, then feel free to leave a dislike, I'm just looking for your honest opinion either way. I hope that you've had a great day, or evening, depending on where you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Be safe guys, peace.